Good morning, critical thinking classroom. How are you today? I am, let me see, make sure I'm doing everything right. I am getting some socks on because it is a little cool here in Michigan. It is, but it'll probably, and it looks like it's warming up. We had some great rain here, little windy, little cool for the end of June, June 28th, my birthday today. I was telling somebody about what a golden birthday is. Not a golden anything else, just a golden birthday. What is a golden birthday? A golden birthday is when you turn the age of the date of your birthday. So my birthday is June 28th. So when I turned 28, that was my golden birthday. And what's a golden, and so not what's a golden birthday. I just told you what a golden birthday is. Hopefully you're not asking. I just said, I always say there are some stupid questions. If I just tell you something and then you ask me what I just told you, that's kind of a dumb question, which is what I just did. But what did I do on my golden birthday? What did I do on my golden birthday? When I turned 28, I saw Van Halen. Van Halen with Sammy Hagar, the way it should be to me. Why? Because he was so talented, his voice and everything, very talented. So, June 28th, turning 28. So, on my birthday, on June 28th, I saw Van Halen. And hold on just a minute, I was in seat 28. I was in seat 28, row 3, seat 28, June 28th. Golden birthday. Good day. Good day. They were so good in concert. And that was in Cincinnati. I saw them with my husband, but we stayed at my sister-in-law's, his sister's house. Okay. Measuring emotional intelligence. I have to sometimes change up the, just so that people are like, well, what's this different about this one? Why does it say 47? So hopefully you look at the numbers there, because the numbers will tell you on what day we're on, right? So that tells you what day we're on up there. And so if we have a repeat title here, doesn't go this way, Annette, it goes this way. If we have a repeat title there, look for the day right there. And you can always kind of get an idea of, sometimes how far you have to go to get the full lesson on emotional intelligence. Right now, not sure. I don't know. Probably we've been talking about this, but really a little elongated lesson, right? A little elongated lesson in that Lucy, and that I've been doing a lot of filler, right? A lot of filler, not for any particular reason, other than I'm trying to get past the need that I've always had. Okay, Lucy, come here, honey. I'm trying to get past the need that I've always had for having to get all the information crammed up and then depending on you to read the information yourself, right? I'm not depending on you so much to read the information. I'm depending on me to explain it thoroughly for you. That's my watchdog, Lucy. Come here, honey. Come on. Come on. Come here by mama. She's funny. Give me a sec so I can calm her down, because sometimes she'll just go woo over the edge and then have like a hypoglycemic attack. That's hypoglycemic. Okay, so let's move into a little bit meatier stuff about emotional intelligence. Shall we? Okay, so as you can see now, what I did was I put the slides up here now, so they're just slightly different. I still have, I think, all the slides for from the original classroom presentation. As you know, they're just changed up a little bit. All right. This slide is just something for you to think about. What happens when we're mindful versus mindless? Why are we mindless or mindful? Well, one of the reasons is because we feel uncertain. If somebody asks you a question like, well, what's the weather like? What's the average temperature in June there in Michigan, right? Well, the truth of the matter is, I don't know, right? I don't know what the average temperature is in Michigan. So if you were to ask me, let's say that you were in a hurry passing by from California, whatever, gave me a phone, whatever, it doesn't even matter. So it's not like we are sitting there having coffee in a conversation. Somebody needs some information. Somebody needs some information, and the information that they need is what is the average temperature in June in Michigan? What would you do? Well, you could say, oh, probably about what? That's what you would do, wouldn't you? You would stop and you would think about 70 degrees higher. We don't usually see 70 degrees, although we are having 70 degrees temperatures now here in Michigan. Would I say 80 degrees? No, but we rarely see it at 75. It's usually 80, 85 in the summertime, right? Would you then go, I don't know, look it up on your phone? Yeah, probably. But, aside from that solution, what would you do? You would take a stab in the dark. Why? Because you don't want to appear so lost that you're incompetent, number one. You don't want to appear so lost about the question because you're not. You could give them some idea. It's not 40. It's not 100. You can give them some idea, which is probably what you would do, right? I would say, I don't know, 78. Let's say 78. Longevity, temperature. Let's just use 78, right? So we don't want to appear uncertain. So why are we mindless? So we don't appear stupid, right? Especially if I can give you a quick answer. I appear even smarter if I can give you a quick answer, right? Okay. The second one is it's efficient. It's efficient for us to be mindless. We do not need to search out every possible piece of evidence to support every possible piece of information that we get. It becomes ridiculous. I'm finding that right now with Twinkle. I like Twinkle. They're giving me a lot of worksheets, and they're great worksheets for homeschoolers. And I think that I've been promoting them, and they've been giving me lots and lots of freebies, which I have been taking full advantage of. It's a very efficient process. But they gave me a name in the war, and they didn't give me a background on it, right? So now I'm giving information and appearing to be a little bit incompetent if I don't check out the information. But why didn't I? Because it's Twinkle. What are they doing? Giving homeschoolers a bunch of wrong information? They could be. I don't know. If I don't check it out. They've got their letters right. And they got their counting right? But this was a PowerPoint on the Civil War, which they gave me great information, and I was happy to report that if you learned that information from that PowerPoint, you learned, a sufficient amount about the Civil War. It's one war in the history of the United States. That's a sufficient amount. If you're, giving the who was fighting who, what Civil War means, and then what were the reasons for the war. Pretty much gave them there in that PowerPoint. But also said something about Ulysses S. Grant, and it was very vague, right? So you still have to be a teacher, right? You still have to be mindful. We still have to be mindful, not about everything, though. We don't have to be mindful about everything. Why are we mindless? Because it's efficient. We only have so many resources, right? If I were always thinking about every turn and every inch of the roadway as I'm driving, how would I ever get any thinking done that helps prepare me for class? That takes resources. It takes resources to basically to think. Takes resources to think, and sometimes we don't have those resources to think. And then the last point there is that it may take effort at first to become mindful, to think about what you're doing. It may take effort at first, but a lot of times we go on automatic pilot once we've got the habit. So the habit, let's say that the habit that we're looking for is a habit of being in the here and now. Let's say that that's the habit that we're looking for, to be in the here and now. So at first, what do? Right now, I'll do it for you right now. I'm going to be right in the here and now. I'm going to notice that I know the book. I see the flowers. You can see my eyes darting. There are my Bibles there. There are the rest of the books. All right, Annette, how are you centered? What does your hair look like? What is this? What is the picture in the frame look like? All right. Do I need to close the curtain? That's in the here and now, right? How are my pillows, underneath me and behind me? How are my pillows doing? That's being in the here and now. But do I need to do that? Well, apparently I don't, right? Because I get on camera with my hair like, could be, possibly, right? With, little whatever, gnarly things over here, right? And the books not piled up nicely over here. So I can be in the here and now for quite a while with this scene that I've got going on. Is that necessary? No, it's not necessary. It's not necessary because I'm here to teach you something different, right? I'm here to teach you something. I'm not here for this. Even though it's nice, even though if I were a professional in front of the camera, I would have snaggletooth, first of all. That would have been fixed a while ago. I'd have makeup on, right? All kinds of stuff that would be different if this were a professional scene. And even then, I wouldn't have to be in the here and now, would I? No, because somebody else would have done it for me professionally. Is that necessary for me to be in the here and now? I will have to say, though, it was necessary for me to notice a few things. It was necessary for me to notice that these roses that I got from Kroger, these roses really did much better than the ones I got from Fresh Time. And in general, I get these roses. I don't know why their heads are too heavy for the stem to hold, which doesn't make any sense. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because what? Because these roses are just gorgeous, opening up with these beautiful little whatever those berry things are. I just love them, right? They're so beautiful. So you could see I could be in the here and now for a long time with that. That's a training. So we can train, even training that way, even stopping yourself to be in the here and now to see if you need to be in the here and now. Do you know what I'm saying? Right? You know what I'm saying? So stop. Oh no, I guess everything's fine. Let me give you another example that I think is a very practical example for everybody. When you're cleaning, it's so easy for you to not be in the here and now. And so, put your music, your earbuds in, put your music on, whatever, or put your movie on when you're cleaning. And then all of a sudden you're like, right, watching the movie, right? Well, I'm just thinking about, there are a couple other thoughts that are, so I'm not in the here and now because there's a couple other thoughts that are flowing through my mind at the same time, right? So as we're cleaning, we are not always in the here and now. It's easy to not be in the here and now. What a great training for being in the here and now. All right. Why? Because in order to get a room clean, you do really have to be in the here and now. And you should start with certain things. So you would start with, for example, dusting. So that you're not starting with sweeping, because all the dust would get on, if you dusted after you swept, all the dust would get on the floor, right? Or some dust, not all the dust. Hopefully it's in your rag or whatever, but some dust would get back on the floor. So there is, and then when I am cleaning, I need to make sure that I'm getting everywhere, right? That I'm looking at where my hands have cleaned. I'm looking at all of the corners as I'm cleaning. Cleaning requires you are in the here and now if you want to do good cleaning, right? So you've got a hierarchy to cleaning, and then at the most detailed level, you have to see and look at what you're doing to make sure it's clean. When you're washing the floor, if there's a hard spot to get out, you just can't be washing the floor like this, right? Going through the motions. If there's a spot there, you have to use some extra effort. In order for you to see the spot, you have to be in the here and now. And then when you're all done with that, when you're all done with your hierarchy, I dusted first, right? And then I used window. So there is furniture cleaning, and then there's window or glass cleaning. Then there is, which could include light fixtures as well, and pictures, right? What's your organization? Do you wipe down your pictures every time? What do you do, right? How do you do that? And then you sweep, and then you mop. Of course, you don't mop before you sweep. What sense does that make? Then all you're doing is pushing dirt around. So you need to sweep, and then you mop, right? And you need to be paying attention to where the dirt is on the floor when you're sweeping, just like you have to pay attention to where the spots are on your floor when you're mopping, right? Okay. And then when you're all done, what you do is you step back, and in the here and now, you observe the room. Your mind is in someplace else. You can't observe the room. And isn't that interesting? You can't really observe the room for cleanliness if your mind is on the fact that your boyfriend just broke up with you last week, right? You can't observe the cleanliness of the room when your mind is on something, especially if you've got something that you're really concentrating on. So really, really good practice for getting in the here and now. Because again, just like we said as well, what is one of our greatest abilities is to what? Bring back a wandering mind. So what house cleaning does for you is it literally teaches you how to bring back a wandering mind. To get that room clean, you need to constantly be bringing back your wandering mind. And another way to do that is at the very end. So we have a hierarchy. We have an order to cleaning the room, right? And at the very end, the very last thing you do is you step back from the whole room, not this close. You're not in the room. You're at the doorway. You're out of the room, and your eyes scan the entire room. Are there dust bunnies in the corner, right? What about the drapes? Are they hanging nicely? Did you get your fake plants, which I do have over there? Here, these trees here, right? Did you dust this? Right? When you go and you take a step back, you'll be able to see everywhere in the room clearly. And if you remain in the here and now while you're doing that, you will get the entire room clean. You will see all of the things, and you can decide, I want to pick up those, returnables and return them today. I'll get those out of this room as well. I need to take those things and put them back in storage downstairs. You could decide that. Look at how you are required to bring back a wandering mind while you are cleaning. Now, how about I have somebody out there say, but Dr. Feravich, I have ADHD. And so it's really hard for me to clean a room. I go and I clean a room and I start there, and then I go in the next room and there's something else, and I go in the next room and there's something else, and now I'm overwhelmed with everything. That is also bringing back a wandering mind. And you could do that however way you want to. It doesn't matter. There are some rules, but do you think I don't sweep and mop a floor sometimes before I dust? Or skip dusting entirely to sweep and mop the floor? Of course I do. You can see that, right? You can you can see that. Of course I do. So there's an order, but in your here and now, you can adjust that order. In the here and now, this is required, not this. I have 40 minutes to do something. This is required, but not all of that, right? So we can adjust this in our here and now. When I step back from the room and I look at it, I make an adjustment, right? All of this has everything to do with this. What are you doing in your room when you're cleaning? What are you doing when you're in the here and now? You're remembering, you're understanding, you're analyzing, you're evaluating. What are you doing when you're in the here and now? These are the things that you are doing. You're collecting data is what you're doing in the here and now. You're collecting data, right? For all Amazon to pick up from your brains, right? Amazon, you know what? I let you off the hook the other day, and I'm not letting you off the hook anymore. I shouldn't have let you off the hook the other day when they were talking about, although, what'd you do? Pay a fine for it, and that was it? And what was that fine? It was so low, I could not believe how low it was. What, $2 million? If even that, whatever the fine was, for taking data. And what they said was they made it impossible for people to leave Amazon. That was a big fat lie. And that big fat lie, analyzing, evaluating information in the here and now, bring back a wandering mind. Does it make sense? How good are you doing these things with that information? Amazon does not make it hard. So then the news people had to change your story for why Amazon was hit with such a small fine. And they said, so in the asterisk, basically peewee type print over there in the little mousy voice, they said, oh yeah. And they were collecting data from children. Yeah, that's exactly what you're doing. You're collecting data, but more than that, you're collecting data from children and from women and from vulnerable people for gambling. For gambling. You're gambling is what you're doing. I know these people in town that are here, McCarty, Chumley, that are here in town, those are big gamblers. The people I've been seeing around here, Damien's, you're big gamblers. You guys are big gamblers is who you are. And that's what's going on here. You're gambling. Just takes a little evaluation of what is going on here. Are you evaluating the things that are going on here? Or the things that are going on in your life, right? So, evaluating that Amazon, right? There's no way. Is it hard to quit? It's not hard to quit. But if you're gambling with children's data and data from vulnerable individuals, and I see as soon as I say something that somebody finds to be legal, they jump off of here. They don't want to hear it. I know you're hearing it. I know you're hearing about what is going on. You want to know why? I know because I'm mindful. Because I'm mindful. I'm observant, not to the point of being neurotic. And that's what emotional intelligence is all about. You're observant, but not to the point of being neurotic. You are observant for the purposes of the current event. I don't have time to dust the ceiling and wash the floor and everything in between. But I do have time just to sweep and mop the floors. I can make an adjustment and feel just fine about that adjustment. I've got lawn right now where I had it mowed like this, and the other where it literally stopped, and we had 4 days of rain. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to hit yourself up for another plan. That's what you're going to do. You're going to hit yourself up for another plan. That's mindfulness. Do you understand? Are you getting it? Are you getting how dynamic mindfulness has to be? It is not about static meditation. That is not mindfulness. And even static meditation, mindful meditation is about so much more than a single point of interest, which I believe we've talked about in here, although I'm not 100% sure. Likely in one of my classes, though. So the objective is to bring back a wandering mind. That's the objective. And as in our last point here says, it doesn't have to be purposeful, difficult, effortful. It probably does at first, though, doesn't it? It does at first have to be effortful, but after that, yeah, no more. So, okay, so now let's talk a little bit more specifically, as I started to mention, about mindful meditation. All right? So what are we talking about when we're talking specifically about mindful meditation? Well, there's a definition. There are the names of individuals who are where I got the literature from, right? The person that I usually get most of my information from regarding mindful meditation is there on that slide. It says Davidson, R. It was a last name listed there. And that is Richard Davidson. Richard Davidson, if you recall, a lot of this information is coming from I should have got this before I did that, right? Now you're looking at my face going, she didn't have any makeup on. You need to put some makeup on. Look at your close up, she didn't have makeup on. Destructive emotions, right? Destructive emotions. In this book, which I've talked about in the past sporadically here and there, which is a dialogue with the Dalai Lama and was narrated by Daniel Goleman, right? Who is the author of Emotional Intelligence. So he coined the name based on his book, Emotional Quotient, right? EQ versus IQ. In case you didn't know that, that is the measure for emotional intelligence. It's EQ, and it's relative to, compared to IQ. Because remember, in the beginning of this, we said IQ is not predicting success. So what is EQ? Emotional quotient is the measure for emotional intelligence. We get an emotional quotient. He just wanted to draw the relationship with IQ versus EQ, right? Is what he wanted to do. Okay, so in here, they did MRI studies, so brain scans of Buddhist monks who were professional meditators versus novice meditators. And then they scanned their brain to see the differences in brain activity in meditation. So they're studying mindful meditation, and they're comparing professional meditators who have been doing it for 10 years or more compared to novice meditators who have been doing it for 3 years or less. The person doing the study here is Richard Davidson from the University of Wisconsin. And so he is doing the actual MRI brain imaging to compare the differences in basically brain attention, basically the ability to bring back a wandering mind, or to not have that mind wander in the first place as what is demanded from mindful meditation, right? That you hold on to your mind. And it's a developing of a self-control of the mind is what it is. It's a phenomenal skill. When you take a look at, when Davidson took a look at the differences between people who were professional meditators in brain activation compared to those people who were novice meditators, taking a look at the brain activation in the professional meditators was off the charts controlled. That's how it was. That's how what they were looking at. They were looking at the ability to hold a thought. And how clean was that thought? Or was I getting a lot of white noise, a lot of static around the thought, which means I'm thinking and doing a lot more? Or can I hold on to that single thought? That is mindful meditation. And if you can hear what I'm saying, then what you can hear is the benefit in mindful meditation. What is the benefit? Can you hear it? Can you hear what the benefit is in mindful meditation? Because if you're not meditating this way, you're not getting the benefit. And the benefit is clear. What do you suppose the benefit is of mindful meditation? What do you think the benefit is of mindful meditation? The benefit is being able to control your thoughts. That's the benefit. You can control your thoughts. So when that worry starts creeping in, you can keep it at bay enough for you to be able to do whatever you need to do with your body, right? Calm it down, right? Take a few deep breaths. Get rid of the bad thoughts, right? So, what is the benefit of mindful meditation? The benefit of mindful meditation is learning to control those thoughts. And in doing, you're like, well, Dr. Feravich, if I control the thoughts, aren't I suppressing thoughts? And won't those thoughts pop up? Yes, they will. If we suppress thoughts, they will pop up. They will. And in really negative ways, right? In ways that really bother us and make us anxious. They'll pop up, at the worst times. When you're standing in front of class, then all of a sudden, bam, that thought comes in, right? Well, won't those thoughts pop up? Yes, they will pop up. So should I suppress thoughts? Won't they pop up at bad times? The idea of self-control of the mind is not to suppress thoughts. It's to control your thinking. Suppressing thoughts is not thinking, right? It's not thinking. So, the benefit of mindful meditation really is controlling your own thinking, right? Not suppressing your thinking, but controlling your own thinking so that I don't go to that bad place when I'm teaching, but I know I need an outlet for it. So I go to that whatever place, that negative place that I don't want to go to when I've given myself some thoughtful time, when I can meditate on it, or write about it, spend some time on it, right? Not decades as we do as mental health care professionals, no, or months, no. You visit that thought until the negative energy from the thought is released. That could be 15 minutes a night, for 4 nights. Could be something like that. That you could have churned up that negative thought enough that you've gotten rid of it. I'm not giving you a guarantee on the amount of time. What I am telling you is that it doesn't take months, and it doesn't take years, and it doesn't take decades. And that's what most mental health care professionals are banking on, really. We have enough people with mental illness that really do need some really great help and some really great therapy. And I look at some of the things that they're studying in psychology, and it just makes me want to puke. Like, they're studying whether or not they could get, here was one of them. They're studying whether or not they can get good advice from an AI. Can we just possibly give everybody good human advice first? Could we figure out how to give everybody who needs it good human advice before we spend time and money on seeing what the hell an AI generated thing has to say? Seriously, do you not just simply want to get eliminated for your human thought? Oh my gosh, it's just unbelievable what we're studying and what we're doing sometimes. It's so backwards. But I'm likely preaching to the choir because most of you already know many of the things that we do in science, in medicine, and I'm including psychology and the science as well, which is fine if people whatever want to argue, it doesn't even matter, as really needing a major overhaul for sure. Somebody needs to do some mindful meditation on that. All right, so let's get back over here to where we were. So the person, again, as I said, that in that list of authors there that I really has been my go-to for, 20 years has been Richard Davidson. So he's the one who really had made believers, and that is the truth, out of the Dalai Lama and out of Daniel Goleman and out of Paul Ekman as well. And so if you read this, you would understand what I'm talking about. But just extraordinary research that is making like believers, like there's like when I say that, actually literally Ekman was believing in something more outside the realm of whatever after these studies. Because when you see the power of the mind, you begin to really at a slower pace accept, or not at whatever pace, doesn't matter, accept that there are things that we have not explained or looked into that are beyond us. And it is right now, to me, a shutdown of that, so that there are certain individuals who have found some kind of magic in Eastern medicine, it seems, or Eastern philosophy or Eastern thinking relative to mind over matter that they're trying to hide from the public right now, without a doubt, and use as a cure now instead of the normal barbaric surgery that we've had. Did I mention that Robert F. Kennedy, candidate for president, said 1% of our healing has come from the medical industry, so surgery and pharmaceuticals? Of course that makes sense. All that is just another big cluster bleep, right? Just a big circle bleep. Okay, so there's a lot of words here. I understand there's a lot of words. Remember that we are taking this from a college course that I teach, from Positive Psychology, the college course that I teach, Positive Psychology, or that I've taught, for, I don't know, 20 years or so, one degree or another. And so this is their definition from the literature there. So Lutz, Lewis, Johnstone, and Davidson. There is the definition for mindful meditation, and it's just the development of deep insight into the nature of mental processes, consciousness, identity, and reality, and the development of optimal states. And so it's a broad definition that can really, if I am having a deep insight into my identity, it doesn't mean I have to be meditating on it, right? That could happen in a moment. It can happen as what we would call a paradigm shift, right? So mindful meditation can be and should be a purposeful practice, but it doesn't mean it's a formal practice like sitting down like the picture depicts right there, right? Like it's depicted there. Outcomes of mindful meditation, and these are very specific. These are older studies. Most of them are older studies, but they all are older studies. I see even the newest one is 20 years old. But it doesn't matter because we haven't found things that are different, same kind of rewarding outcomes. So stress, these are specifics though. Stress reduction and the effects on hardiness and coherence in hospital patients. So increase, you can see the measures here are very specific. So the measure is hardiness, increasing specifically a measure of hardiness, increasing coherence, and reducing stress in that study. Increased empathy through mindful meditation, which is definitely a strategy for medical students that has been ignored and now is really more on the forefront, although not enough on the forefront for our medical students and community. Increased empathy is necessary. Increases in positive emotional states and decreases in anxiety for those people who engaged in mindful meditation. And it doesn't also take you don't have to be a professional meditator. As I've said, at first it's effortful, but it's easy later on. So you don't need to be a professional meditator to be mindful and therefore gain these benefits of mindful meditation. The last one there, increases spirituality, oneness, motivation, and personal trust. And this is something that inspires hope in individuals. Why? Because it gives us something to look forward to in our future, right? We're motivated to belong, we're motivated to connect, and we're motivated as well. So some wonderful, wonderful rewards when we engage in mindful meditation. Let's go on to the next slide here. Here, I'm just going to show you the next two slides is all I'm going to show you, and you could take a look at them without going through. I'll go through the words. But this is what are the qualities of mindfulness. When I am mindful, so I can meditate and become more mindful. That's how I become mindful. But when I am mindful, what are my qualities? What would you see in me? I would be non-judging. I would be non-striving. So I don't have to have goals. I don't have to be so relentless at getting my goals. Non-striving. Acceptance. Open to seeking and acknowledging things as they are in the moment. So accepting others. This stuff that's going on in particular here in the Milford area with people having only one idea and only one way to a solution here, and seeing any other ideas as an attack on their mere existence, that is completely the opposite of acceptance. It is intolerance. We are seeing intolerance at such a rise. I don't know how people could say that we have improved in our discrimination. When we see intolerance on have come to such a rise, right? It's been on such a rise. It is so increased, is at such high levels. Intolerance, that is an inability to accept. Of course it is. But what I want to stress here is if we have intolerance at numbers, percentage that we've never seen before, school shootings, that's intolerance is what that is. We have intolerance at levels we've never seen before actually, then we absolutely have discrimination like we've never seen before. Also, EEOC, it is not going to be on the mental illness charge. It absolutely will be on the ancestry, the genetic charge, because I'm sure that, you got a hold of some genetic information about me, and that's what this is actually all about. All right? So, but EEOC, I also want you to know that, so federal government, look at Detroit area, because I don't know what those people are doing other than basically serving the gambling industry here. Right on, brother. That's the reason why Darren McCarty did that stuff. The gambler over there, the gambling industry has got the thumb on a whole bunch of people is what's going on over here. Gambling industry has got their thumb on a whole bunch of people, including McCarty. And I don't know why you just don't do the right thing and say, hey, officers, this is against the law. I owe them money, but they can't put me in a life-threatening situation because of it. And the same thing goes for Ben Affleck. And I don't know what Matt Damon is doing, but Matt Damon's in this too as well. And Chumley as well, which also puts Rick in there too, because I know Rick's in this, right? I know he is, whatever the guy's name is. Oh yeah, for sure. Check out Our Blessings for that one. I don't know. I'm not sure. But that's what it looks like, and people need to be checking into this because there's a lot of illegal behavior going on over here. And it's because it's become a criminal behavior that's become acceptable, and when anyone speaks out against it, it becomes it's not tolerated. It's not tolerated. Patience, trust, openness. Letting go. So this is detaching. Mindful meditation is an Eastern philosophy, right? It comes from, Eastern philosophy for thousands and thousands of years. And now we are just beginning to study this. And you can see why the medical industry is trying to get a grasp on the money-making aspect of all of this Eastern philosophy that they have chosen to ignore in lieu of making money in the medical industry. I also learned something else recently, and that was that the midwives were eliminated in like the mid 1800s. They were eliminated because of the medical industry. So there were midwives who had delivered 3,000 babies. I read a story, had delivered 3,000 babies. I mean, think about it. If you were a midwife in the 1800s, first of all, you were likely a slave, a black slave person. What were you doing? You were delivering lots of babies for not only for the owners, but for the slaves as well, right? So the experience that you would have as a midwife delivering babies would likely be considerable. When the medical industry came in and saw, here you are giving livelihood to minority individuals. And with minority status also came concepts of being unlearned, an inability to learn, degenerates, and all kinds of negative connotations that come along with that. So the midwives then were stripped of that job after freedom, after emancipation, right? So they were prevented from making a living. Sound familiar? They were stripped of that job, prevented from making a living because the medical community said you can no longer legally be a midwife. Medical community came in. I wonder what their success rate is compared to the midwives who were really quite trained. Very interesting, right? Very interesting. All right, how do we get on midwives from this? So letting go, a non-attachment to those negative feelings and experiences. Gentleness, generosity, empathy, gratitude, and loving kindness. And loving kindness is, another word for loving kindness is compassion. Okay? So if we are speaking of loving kindness, if we're studying loving kindness, look up compassion. And I think I've said this in another class before. I think I've talked about this before. But when I looked up, when I was studying compassion, and this was in the early days of the internet, what popped up all over was Eastern philosophy. This was not even a word that was that common in our language, so much so that it was popping up only relative to Eastern philosophy, right? So compassion is really actually a relatively newly studied concept here in the United States. Why? Because it's been basically an Eastern concept. Well, Dr. Feravich, if we aren't studying compassion, what are we studying? I don't know, capitalism, competition. What do you think? Okay, economy, economics, right? The over under, right? On bets. Is that what we're studying? Well, Dr. Feravich, it helps us with our math. So there are 6 different techniques for mindful meditations that's listed there. They are listed there on the left. And then on the right are the benefits of mindful meditation. Now, most of those benefits I've talked about, or many benefits of mindful meditation, I've already talked about. However, I haven't talked about these outcomes that are listed here. And actually, I just wish that those were a little bit bigger, but that's okay. I'm gonna switch it out and it will get a little bit bigger. Oh, for Pete's sake. No, it's not. All right, I'm sorry. I'm looking at this, trying to change this because it keeps auto changing the size and I can't get this darn thing to format the way that I want it to format, and I don't understand why it's so hard sometimes in Word, and I'm sure people know exactly what I'm talking about, to get it to format or repeat a format like we need it to. Why is that so hard, Word? How long have you been actually around? Okay, so that's enough of that. Yep, I am still doing this. All right, so I know, I'm sorry. I'm watch this. I'm gonna do it again. That should have changed. How come it didn't change? Darn it. Do I have to say okay? Oh, I know why. Don't you just love when I sit here and talk to myself? Just talk amongst yourselves. Read those outcomes, and we'll talk about those outcomes in just a minute, because I totally am going to do this. You don't even know. I'm going to get this done right. Okay, that should have done it. How did that not do it? Probably because I don't have the right ones up there. I don't know. It doesn't even matter. We're going to talk about some of the brain changes when we get back. All right. So hopefully you didn't necessarily have to stick around for my exit or all of that. But we're going to talk about brain changes when we get back, and what we see that mindful meditation can really do for your change. Now, you're like, Dr. Feravich, you're talking about mindful meditation. What does this have to do with emotional intelligence? It has everything to do with emotional intelligence because emotional intelligence has to do with controlling your brain. So we're kind of taking a look at different ways that we have measured this and looked at outcomes. I should have called this outcomes of emotional intelligence, whatever, or mindful meditation or whatever. Okay, but we'll get to it. I will be back here tomorrow on Thursday and we will have more stuff and maybe we'll get this series really rolling, although I think we are, on emotional intelligence, a concept made famous by a psychologist whose name is Daniel Goleman. Thanks for joining me. This is Dr. Annette Feravich, and we are in the critical thinking classroom, and I'm the teacher.